Here's what's coming up on your horizon. Well, sometimes even the best intentions can have unintended consequences. Today, we begin by looking at how a recent EPA ruling designed to improve air quality could put some rural residents in increased fire danger.
This program is vital. It is vital to the continued success and to the life of the fire departments here in the country.
I'll visit with the EPA's regional administrator about why he believes that federal agency often gets a bum rap.
Sometimes people present a false choice that you can either have one or the other. We believe that you can have both.
We'll meet a group of young people who may well be on the front lines of protecting our country. They're our cyber patriots.
IT field is a very booming field. It's not just going to be computer networks anymore.
Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in career tech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma Career Tech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. Well, Americans are breathing easier and living healthier lives since the Clean Air Act was enacted in 1970. The government credits the Clean Air Act with significant reductions in air pollutants. Since 1990, lead is down 83%, sulfur dioxide is down 75%, and carbon monoxide, well, it's down 73%. And according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the act has led to measurable health benefits for Americans, including fewer missed work days and emergency room visits. Yet despite these gains, a recent decision has some warning those cleaner skies could be filled with smoke. Here to explain is our Andy Barth.
Well, Rob, here in Oklahoma, rural fire departments are first on the scene for more than 75% of all wildfires. But a new interpretation of an old ruling between the EPA and Department of Defense had many worried it could become difficult for rural fire departments to get their hands on dependable, life-saving equipment.
It happens nationwide every year. California, Washington, and right here in Oklahoma. Wildfires burn an average of 160,000 acres each year in the Sooner State. A number that could be much higher if it weren't for surplus Army vehicles in rural fire departments.
Over the years, we've taken these excess property and surplus property from the military and placed them with fire departments across the state.
Mark Goller is the state fire management chief with the Oklahoma Forestry Services and says even though these surplus vehicles are vital for wildfire protection, the Department of Defense halted all surplus vehicle sales.
On June 17th, the military issued a stop order and we haven't been able to place any vehicles from the military with the rural fire departments here in Oklahoma.
Currently, there are nearly 9,000 surplus vehicles and equipment being used by Oklahoma's rural fire departments, valued at more than $160 million. A lot of money, but just a fraction of the cost if purchased new.
We have agreements with over 900 fire departments here in the state. The rural fire departments are critical to emergency services.
Approximately half of my fleet is part of the forestry program or the DOD program.
Jason Miller is the fire chief in Luther and says it is fiscally impossible to buy brand new trucks and equipment for his department.
Being able to go down to Goldsby to the forestry department and pick through these trucks, find good ones, build them here in the station, they're that important. It's just, it comes down to a cost effectiveness for us without just, absolutely tapping out the city or the town. It'd be really, really hard to do.
And with the constant fire threat in the state, Goller says it doesn't take much for a wildfire to literally hit home.
Any wildfire that starts has the potential to reach a community, but out in the rural areas of Oklahoma and across the country, there are many small community subdivisions, ranchettes. A lot of values at risk out there that could potentially be impacted. And once it makes it into the community, then you've got not only the wildlands involved, but you have structures involved. You've got the potential for fires to move from structure to structure.
And running a rural volunteer fire department, Miller says he does everything he can to protect his community.
We try to find every way possible that we can to get the money, to get the equipment, and do the things and have the thing to give our communities the best possible fire suppression and rescue efforts that we can.
And Goller says reinstating the program between the DoD and rural firefighters is critical for small departments across the state.
This program is vital. It is vital to the continued success and to the life of the fire departments here in the country. If they don't have these vehicles, then our response capability across the state, across Oklahoma, is going to be dramatically reduced.
Now, since the time we met with Goller and Miller, the Department of Defense overturned the ruling made from the agreement between the DoD and EPA, due in great part from outcry from small rural fire departments around the nation. Once again, allowing rural fire departments to purchase surplus vehicles to protect their communities.
Well, certainly some good news for our rural communities, but not the complete reversal that some had hoped for, because now there's some new ground rules in place.
There are, Rob. In order for these vehicles to be used, they must remain under the Department of Defense so that they know that they will be destroyed once they're no longer in use. And that means all of the Oklahoma vehicles must be tracked and returned to the Department of Defense once the rural fire departments are through with them. And according to Oklahoma Senior Senator Jim Inhofe, this new agreement will create more red tape for our local fire departments. And while he believes this is the best short-term answer to maintain the program with the DoD, Senator Inhofe says he will continue to work with his colleagues to address the unnecessary regulation created by this agreement.
So I guess this is an instance of where you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Or at least make it so you're grateful for what you have.
All right, well, keep us posted if anything changes.
Will do.
Now, when we return, our environment and our economy from the EPA's perspective.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, when it comes to criticism, few federal agencies have gotten more of it in recent years than the EPA. Regulations that were once welcomed are now criticized as misguided federal overreach. That of an agency that at first was welcomed by both Republicans and Democrats alike.
The test is made with a plane flying across the center of the line of checkpoints at a predetermined speed.
The year 1962, and Rachel Carson publishes her book, Silent Spring, addressing the hazards of DDT and other pesticides, focusing attention on the harm some chemicals may have on the environment. Silent Spring and the media attention surrounding it pushed government to take action. Presidents began adding environmental issues to speeches and legislative programs.
Shall we surrender to our surroundings, or shall we make our peace with nature?
With Richard Nixon in his second year of presidency creating the Environmental Protection Agency, better known as the EPA. In the agency's early years, among many regulations, the EPA banned DDT, established a Clean Water Act, and began phasing out leaded gasoline, improving our water and the air we breathe. Yet the agency is often shrouded in controversy, especially in more recent years. Oklahoma and other states battle with the EPA over proposed clean air rules. And this June, the EPA proposed what has been called its most ambitious air regulation yet, calling for a 30% decrease of power plant emissions by 2030, a ruling that has Oklahoma, along with 8 other states, suing the EPA over the new rules. And while such mandates make their way through the courts, Oklahoma continues to curb its energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. The American Wind Energy Association reports that last year, more than 14% of Oklahoma's energy was provided by wind power. And just this February, the EPA recognized Edmond as a leading green power community. So while federal and state officials may still be at odds over how much is too much protection, the air we breathe and the water we drink is the cleanest it has been in years. Well, the EPA estimates that new greenhouse gas emission controls may contribute to as much as $90 billion in healthcare savings by the year 2030 when they're fully implemented. Now, earlier, I was able to sit down with EPA Regional Administrator Ron Curry to find out why he believes this often embattled agency is in fact a success story. Mr. Curry, what are some of the environmental success stories that our country has that maybe we sometimes forget about?
Well, I think one of the things that we like to talk about and emphasize is how important it is for the environment and the economy working together. Sometimes people present a false choice that you can either have one or the other. We believe that you can have both. And we talk to industry every day in this position, whether it's BASF, whether it's Dow, whether it's Exxon, whether it's mom and pop stores. We talk to businesses every day. And what you find is that they start using the term the triple bottom line, where they're trying to look for efficiencies in energy, and they're looking at a profit, and they're looking at the health of their employees and the communities that they work around. So they're looking at three ways of assessing their success and their sustainability. And so that's proof in itself that you've got businesses and the environmental regulators working together for the betterment of the community. And companies that are sustainable today take into account how they treat their environment and how their communities around them are treated, because they need those communities to be sustainable, especially if they're drawing their workforce from that environment that's right around their business. So you look at communities like Little Rock in Arkansas. They've had a very successful program there where they've had a greening of Little Rock. They put many programs in place that are saving them energy, and so the citizens are saving money on their lower utility bills. They've got water programs. The city of Santa Fe has a water program that they work with the hotels to conserve water up there. And so you just see this sort of approach where the economy and the environment are working together on a day-to-day basis. Here today in Oklahoma, we've heard speakers talk about that exact thing, the nexus between the economy and the environment. So we continue to look for ways to try to facilitate the economy and the environment working together. There was a situation up in northwestern New Mexico where the San Juan Generating Station is working through some of their issues as far as getting a state implementation plan in place that meets the requirements of the Clean Air Act and some regional haze concerns. And they've done that working together with the Public Service Company of New Mexico, which is the owner of the plant, working with the state of New Mexico, working with the Navajo Nation, which is very tied to that operation because of the jobs that are there. And so it's a group of people working together for the benefit of the environment and for the economy. And we can look throughout the region and find place after place where that continues to be the way that people are starting to think. And so we reject that the economy and the environment cannot work together, because they are. And they will continue to find ways to do that because business realizes that their bottom line has to include the environment and the health of the communities that they work in.
In terms of the environment, has technology proven to be somewhat our friend in helping us do things better?
Absolutely. You know, technology is something that is always very innovative and almost always comes from the private sector. And that private sector is trying to come up with that technology that is also going to help their bottom line. It's also going to help the environment.
Mr. Curry, thank you so much. Want to share something you've seen here today? Well, all of our episodes are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV. Or you can subscribe to our weekly free podcasts on iTunes. Well, chances are that someone from somewhere is attacking our country right now. That's because increasingly modern-day battle lines are those of digital code. In the past 6 years, the federal government suffered nearly a 680% increase in cybersecurity attacks, and those are just the ones we know of. It's estimated that as many as 14,000 U.S. troops and security personnel are now involved in cyber warfare. Well, while foreign governments may be interested in cyber espionage, others are just wanting into our pocketbooks. Estimates are cybercrime costs Americans between $25 and $100 billion every year. When you add up everything from draining people's bank accounts to the theft of intellectual property, no one is safe, especially an entity as big as state government. As OETA's Steve Bennett shows us, protecting Oklahoma's digital security is one large undertaking.
President Barack Obama made cybersecurity a top priority in his State of the Union address, noting that criminals are hacking into information systems to steal people's identities, while foreign governments and companies are stealing corporate and government secrets.
Now our enemies are also seeking the ability to sabotage our power grid, our financial institutions, our air traffic control systems. We cannot look back years from now and wonder why we did nothing in the face of real threats to our security and our economy.
Mark Gower is the head of information security for the state of Oklahoma. Gower says hackers are constantly trying to exploit holes in computer information systems.
The state network is always under attack. We can pretty much assume that someone is always testing the limits, someone is always testing the boundaries and testing our systems.
Hackers are also sharpening their skills, making it more difficult to uncover attacks.
When they try to disguise their activity, it looks more legitimate in today's environment, so we have to stay well-trained, have to have our technology up to the toppest level that we can do, and then be able to identify these through all of our proactive measures as possible rather than reactive.
To combat the threat, Oklahoma has created the State Security Operations Center. Experts here watch over Oklahoma's information network, looking for evidence of hacking and information theft. Gower says the center provides protection to more than 80% of state computers.
So that we brought everybody up to a basic level of security where those endpoints have antivirus, anti-malware, anti-spam, and what is called intrusion detection, intrusion prevention on the actual system itself. And then those systems then report their activity back to the State Security Operations Center so we can identify behaviors and attack vectors and signatures.
Combating those attacks has become a growth industry in Oklahoma. Colleges and universities are offering courses in cybersecurity. Dr. Cheryl Hale is co-founder of the Cybersecurity Education Consortium, or CSEC.
And the primary goal of that consortium is really to create a cadre of highly skilled cybersecurity specialists. Originally it was through Oklahoma, but now we've actually have reached out and are an 8-state consortium.
CSEC helps to develop curricula and educational resources for schools turning out the next generation of cybersecurity experts. Rose State College in Midwest City offers 6 levels of federal cybersecurity certifications. The National Security Agency recognizes the school as a center for excellence in cybersecurity. Ken Dewey heads up the program, now in its 9th year.
We initially expected about 8 students for the first semester, then maybe 20 the second semester. We ended up with 75 students on the very first semester.
Once students finish the program, there's no shortage of job prospects.
We have FAA, we probably have 2 or 3 dozen students working there. We have a couple dozen working at Dell. We got them at Chesapeake, got them at Tinker.
Opportunities are available even before students graduate.
I met with Devon Energy last week. They want to hire our students as interns because they were telling me that they have people working there that work 60, 80 hours a week because there's so much going on in the network security area, and they have no one to support them. So what they're doing is there are people working overtime.
Students don't necessarily have to have a background in computers. Francis Tuttle Technology Center in Oklahoma City offers courses in cybersecurity and continuing education for instructors. Greg Porter is an instructor there.
You need to have an analytical mind. You have to be able to solve problems. If you like solving problems, this is the right field for you. I love solving problems and figuring out how things work. But as far as a strong background, not necessarily.
Keeping ahead of the bad guys is always a challenge. That's why Porter and other instructors take classes themselves to stay up on new developments in cybersecurity.
For every person that's trying to secure systems, there's probably 1,000 people trying to get in. So, you know, it's kind of like keeping out the barbarian hordes. You know, you're on manning the walls. So, yeah, it is a challenge.
Don Lawrence is an instructor at Tulsa Technology Center. He says continuing education is vital.
Because as cybersecurity gets good, so do the hackers. And essentially, as they get one step on us, we have to come back and increase the game as well. So it's always going to be moving back and forth.
Cyber attacks can be very sophisticated, but systems can also be compromised by simple means. Organizations have been hacked by dropping a CD or a thumb drive where someone will find it and plug it in to see what's on it.
That was the way that the Iranian nuclear facility was penetrated, was that essentially a flash drive was left that the engineers plugged into their systems and compromised the entire Iranian nuclear facility based on the fact that somebody left that Stuxnet virus, that Stuxnet worm, on a flash drive.
The concern for most Oklahomans isn't terrorists or foreign governments. It's criminals who are after personal information, or hackers who take over home computers to create an army of zombie machines.
A lot of these criminal organizations are actually running botnets of home consumers' computers to attack businesses and government entities. So you actually play a part in our national security just by keeping up your computer at home.
While there's no way to guarantee you won't be hacked, there are steps you can take to lessen the chances. Security experts say using a firewall and installing and updating antivirus software is the best way to prevent your personal computer from becoming a target for hackers.
Well, the one upside to cybersecurity threats is the demand for workers to protect us against them. That's why the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Northrop Grumman Foundation began a program called Cyber Patriots, an effort to help those in the industry to meet and mentor the next generation of our country's cyber defense. Shelby Farrell introduces us to the Oklahoma team that was just one of 28 teams to make it all the way to the national competition in Arlington, Virginia.
When you think of self-defense, getting on your computer probably doesn't come to mind. But that may be different for Cyber Patriots team captain, Paige Booth.
We live in an electronic world. We live in a cyber world. And every year there are billions and millions of dollars being stolen, and people's information, their personal information, their lives are being ruined.
Central Tech and other schools are broadening technology training to include cybersecurity. Not only is education an option for this field, but competitions like Cyber Patriots are also gathering professionals and students in one place.
They brought in all kinds of industry partners, large companies like Northrop Grumman, Cisco, Microsoft, things like that. And it's important enough to them that they're not just getting behind it and financially backing it, but they're also coming there and recruiting on location.
Nick Gaunt coaches Central Tech's Cyber Patriot team, the only Oklahoma squad to make it to this year's Nationals.
The IT field is a very booming field. You know, it's not just going to be computer networks anymore. It's going to be any point of sale. If you're going to a big box store, all their cash registers are going to be computers anymore. And you know, we've realized now that we've got to start securing them.
The demand for these students increases with rapidly growing numbers of cyber attacks. Team member Matthew Cundiff says this hands-on experience can set him apart from others.
What is the user? This is always going to be, something I can look back on and say, hey, I've done this, I've had experience doing this, and hopefully one of these companies, like Northrop Grumman, will take an interest in me and be like, hey, we want him.
Although competitions like Cyber Patriots can create more career options, students like Booth are in training for the joy they get out of helping others.
To sit there and be able to protect them, I guess, kind of makes you feel like a superhero, like we're cyber superheroes.
And with our ever-growing online world, These cyber superheroes will certainly be needed.
What?
Huh?
Well, altogether, more than 1,500 teams competed in Cyber Patriots, with Gordon Cooper Technology Center making it all the way to the finals and making plenty of connections on their journey. As students prepare to head back to class, not everyone is off to school. Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we look at the future of online learning.
We can make that much more relevant, much more efficient, and save educators time and money, and actually dramatically improve the preparation for the jobs that lie ahead of them.
Today's digital classroom on Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, we are out of time. I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for watching. See you back here next week.
Thank you for watching Oklahoma Horizon.